How's it going, ladies and gents? My name is Jeff, aka SonOfMar on the PlayStation Network, and welcome to XOXO to PlayStation. I got my buddy Javi here with me. We're gonna be talking
What up,
about my.
people?
What's that?
I just said, what up, people?
Oh, we're gonna be talking about Microsoft in this episode, and then we'll do a couple other episodes on Nintendo and PlayStation. So, for background knowledge on both of us, I come, in case none of you know, from a heavy background of PlayStation. I grew up with it for years and years. But I've always had love and affinity for Microsoft, Xbox stuff, and Nintendo. Javi, on the other hand, not to speak for him, he kind of grew up a little bit differently where Nintendo and Microsoft, would you say those were your main pillars? And then Sony was kind of like the backseat driver?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Started out with the Nintendo 64.
Mm-hmm.
Brief stint with the PS1, PS2.
Mm-hmm.
Not that long, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
And majority of my time was playing the 360 and now Xbox One.
But we converted him to the play. I converted you to the PS4.
Absolutely.
That's actually a funny story. What really sold Javi on the PS4 was when I got the Pro, I got Horizon. We were playing at my house, and I always joked with him that, Horizon's going to be the game that sells you on this thing. He was like, yeah, okay. And I told him, all about how it's going to be like Monster Hunters-like, but it's going to be open world, and it's got Far Cry elements, all this shit. And Javi kept kind of going like, yeah, I'll get it when I get it. But then he played it at my house, at my place, and he was like, yep, son of a bitch. I remember that. I remember your face. You were like, fuck.
Yeah, it was pretty much a done deal then. I mean, I could not have it, so
Yeah.
that next weekend I bought one.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty much game over from there. But I mean, you're not missing out on much from here on out, though. But that said, we're talking about Microsoft, and for me, I played a little bit of it with Javi. I keep up to date as much as I can on Microsoft, but it's kind of almost like a given that at this point in time, Microsoft is kind of the last pony in the horse race when it comes to the consoles. Switch is selling really well, and it's really popular, and people are really digging it. Sony has I think, last I knew, they were getting close, if not already at 60 million units sold for PS4, and 20% of those are PlayStation Pro, and they've sold 1 million units of VR, if not more now. They are doing very fucking well. And the Switch is basically completely sold out, and it's doing really well. It's got a high attach rate with Zelda. So Microsoft is kind of the one that is doing well, but it's not doing as well as its competition. So before we even dive into E3, Javi, do you think Microsoft has a chance of kind of fixing its problems, or do you think it's almost a little too late in terms of what they want to do with the Scorpio? Do you think it would be a better idea almost like just scrap and just do a complete new generation of Scorpio, or is there still a chance to kind of do what the Pro does and still do something this generation?
I personally think that they can bounce back from this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure they're trying to get their hardcore base back. A lot of people jumped to Sony, of course, because of especially the exclusives and the, strong lineup they had. And PlayStation overall was stronger than the Xbox One, which a lot of people, they gravitate towards the graphics and the power and all that. So the Scorpio is a great way for Microsoft to really bounce back and try to get some, foothold back from Sony. But I don't think that they'll stray away from the Xbox One brand. I just think that the Scorpio will be like a option for the more hardcore fan to enjoy, the full power of the Xbox One and how they truly wanted it in the beginning to be.
Yeah, kind of like the Pro option. It's just it's a extra. If you really want this, it's there, kind of deal.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
definitely.
And that's kind of where I fall. I mean, Microsoft isn't completely done out of the race. I mean, they've done good numbers. It's just where I kind of fall though too is that unlike the Pro, what was it? The PS4 to the PS4 Pro, the Pro does about, I don't know, double the power, just about. And then or something like that. And then the Scorpio does about 1.6 more, or about 2, I guess if you round up, it's 2 teraflops more of power compared to the Pro. I almost had in my mind, if that was the case, why not make it a new generation? But like you said, we're kind of entering almost like a murky kind of gray area with console generations now, with having iterative consoles. So now we're seeing PlayStation toy around and Xbox toy around with potentially copying what cell phones do, where there's now the Plus option that comes out a couple years later that's like, hey, here's the best option to experience games. You don't have to get it, but you kind of want to if you want the best of the best. Yeah, it's proven to work. I mean, Sony, again, sold 20%, and Scorpio is getting really good reception in terms of buzz, at least right now. So this might be the new trend going forward. Every 3 years, there's a new, like, upgraded version of a console. It's not like this is something new. They've kind of done that in the past, where slim models would come out, and, like the Xbox One, the Xbox One S. That could technically be called iterative console, because the S is actually a significantly better version of the One, because it slimmed it made it smaller, it made it run better, it has HDR in it, it has a 4K Blu-ray drive player, or ultra, or was it 4K? No, it's not 4K, it's a UHD.
Yeah, it's 4K.
Yeah, but there's like another, it's like
360?
Yeah, for the Slim, it's called like a
HD.
Yeah, yep, the ultra high definition, correct. And they did a bunch of shit like that, and even the PlayStation kind of did that back in the PS3, and the 360 did that with Elites and Super Slims and things like that. So this isn't something inherently new, but it's a step in that direction even further, because now we're seeing even more power and new substance being added to these new iterative consoles. So I don't know, I find that really interesting personally. It's almost entering like basically the cell phone market. But yeah, Microsoft's, because we talked about this off camera, we kind of came to the same conclusion where it's not necessarily a do or die. It's kind of like a do or die moment for Microsoft, but it's not. This is kind of almost like a proving ground for them to see if this is a growing trend for them to capitalize on, or if this is something that should maybe have been just a brand new console in itself. Which, naturally, we're talking about the Scorpio, so with E3, what do you think, what are your expectations for the Scorpio in terms of the E3 announcements and all that?
My expectations for the Scorpio is pretty much display how it's going to make the previous games better. Of course, not having Halo, not having Gears on the E3, they will have to, prove themselves with games, and I honestly do believe that they're going to have a decent lineup, just because, like we talked earlier, State of Decay 2 looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
And Scorpio, what I believe is going to happen, they're going to show Scorpio, the power of it. Hopefully the price is not that high, but I would expect it to be slightly higher than the rest of the consoles, to be honest, just because of what's inside the box itself. But overall, Scorpio, I just feel like they're gonna. It's a proving ground of they're making it talking about it being the most powerful console ever. So I really expect them to show it off and actually prove it to the fans and try to get fans interested in the product, into Scorpio, and back, and try to get people back to Microsoft underneath Microsoft's flag. But that's pretty much all I'm hoping for.
Do you have a specific price point you think would work?
My belief would be, so I expect it just like in many different other, websites. The components itself would be roughly $500
Mm-hmm.
for what's inside the box.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, Microsoft needs to make money out of it. If they keep it between 500 to 600, I think I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Above 600, I don't know why, but just the idea of paying $600, even though it's like $100 more than 500, it's just one of those screaming in my head's like that's an, it doesn't swallow down that well.
Yeah.
Hearing that 600 compared to 500.
Well, yeah, it's reminiscent to what PlayStation learned when they did the PS3. They marketed that thing for $600, and people really did not like that. It's like you said, it's an interesting kind of conundrum because Microsoft needs to make a decent kind of change off of it, but at the same time, they have to get goodwill on their side. And while, yeah, the buzz is good about this thing, they need to also make sure that people really see the value in this and also see a potential like, wow, this is way cheaper than I expected. My thinking is the lowest price I'm expecting for it to be is $450. 400, way too cheap for what this thing is saying of itself. And at 400, I feel like it's almost marketing itself as we're saying all this shit, but we aren't necessarily backing it up necessarily, and that would almost point to me being like, oh, there's something wrong here if it's at 400. Like there's almost like something wrong if something's that cheap, that's saying this much. It's like almost like a too good to be true kind of situation. So 450, I think it's kind of the lowest they can go and still maintain a lot of good value. 500 is probably my expected hit point. I think at $499.99, that's just at the mark that they want to get at in terms of what this thing can do. Anything above that, you're going to start reaching PS3 territory where that thing just really burnt a lot of people the wrong way. 550 might be the highest they can go without really making people dislike it, but 550 is kind of like a weird number to market at. So I feel like $499.99 is a good price tag. That's kind of where I view. So I think we pretty much fall in the same camp where it's like make sure that you market this thing as a value product, but also don't try and oversell it and try and market it too highly, because then you reach territory where gamers are kind of fickle, where they'll go, why would I spend $600 on this thing that's only a little bit more powerful than the PS4 Pro, especially if the games aren't quite there, which is what we're going to get into now. You're talking about, kind of them doing a sizzle reel in terms of Xbox games and all that. Do you think, for one thing, they're going to do any kind of remasters or anything of earlier Xbox One games or anything like that for the Scorpio specifically to kind of help bolster its lineup? Or do you think it's just going to be pretty much all like, hey, all these games play on the Xbox One, this will just make them all run better, it'll be all backwards compatibility kind of thing, so if you've owned it, it'll run on this thing too?
I think at this point you pretty much have to. They are taking the initiative of bringing back older games with backwards compatibility, because over the past couple of years, backwards compatibility has become one of their major focal points to bring back that library. And they have said that the Scorpio would make our previous games and the previous generation games look better on the Scorpio. So by having a remastery, either a remastery or a patch that will bring it up to the specs of Scorpio.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking. Maybe not necessarily a remaster, but maybe just like an overhauled patch where like Spencer comes out and goes, "We're patching all of the games."
Yes, I can totally see that. If it's not a honest remaster, it'll be definitely in a patch form that will just make every single game beautiful and pretty much keep Microsoft in their commitment to have to what the Scorpio does, which makes your games look better on Scorpio.
Yeah, Sorry, the audio cut out in that end bit, but yeah, that's pretty much where I'm coming from with where Scorpio's at. It's they need to market it as all existing Xbox One games are gonna get patched, and yeah, like we were talking about off stream, have that tagline of like every AAA title that was multi-platform best on Scorpio or whatever it's gonna be called. Which actually, that's a curious question. What do you think is gonna be the actual name of this thing?
I don't know. Actually enjoy the name Scorpio. I don't know, for some reason I just really enjoy Scorpio. I don't know. I get the feeling like a lot of the code names sound a lot better than the actual name.
Right?
Like I love the PS4 Pro, but the PS4 Neo, I mean, that would have been like totally awesome.
Yeah,
like,
well, I mean,
get a Neo, you know?
well, it's funny because Morpheus was the VR project name, which
Yeah.
I wish they would have just kept with those. PlayStation Morpheus would have been just fucking amazing. And then Neo comes out, and it's I agree. Scorpio sounds cool. I like the name Scorpio a lot, but that's obviously not the actual name. That the project names are never actually what they're called. Like,
Yes.
what Project X for Nintendo was actually the Switch. My thinking is either they're going to just call this thing. I hate for them to do this, but I have for whatever reason, that back in my head, I'm thinking about it a lot, and I go, what if they just call this thing the Xbox One Elite? Because they've always been harping on the fact that, hey, this is still part of the family. The Elite tagline has always been kind of like, this is the high-end tier of Xbox Ones. As I have that suspicion in the back of my head, like, maybe that's what they're going to tag this thing as. But at the same time, I kind of don't like that, because it's like, I feel like you could come up with something better. So maybe they might even simplify it, because this thing is so backwards compatible with the 360 and potentially even that original Xbox and everything. It works with the PC. Maybe just flat out call it the Xbox. And maybe from here on, like I remember we were talking about this a while ago, that maybe this could be the first home console that is open platform, where you could basically crack it open at any given moment and fuck with it. Like, you can take parts out, put stuff in, basically build it like a PC. It just has the initial nuts and bolts and guts to start you off, and then you just kind of build around it from there. And every 4 to 6 years, they'll come out with a new version that kind of ups the ante and maybe, changes a couple things up so that you buy the new version and then basically rebuild it from there too. That's something I still wonder about. I don't know if that's a smart move though, because most console gamers buy consoles. I don't know about you. I mean, I buy a console because it's simple. You just plug it in and go.
Yeah, definitely. At that point, when you make it like
like a PC,
upgradable,
yeah,
you're gonna get a lot of PC players saying, "Why don't you just get a PC?"
Yeah.
You know, at the get go, you don't need a console and be limited what you can do on a console. Like, of course, Microsoft is going for that PC market making, play anywhere feature. But if you're Sony, you want to keep those first parties close to the vest. So
yep,
if you make, I can understand if Microsoft wants to go that direction, just because it does have that play anywhere ability, but I wouldn't see it doing so well for the PlayStation. If you understand, like,
yeah,
PlayStation is definitely a console where you can only get their games on it.
Yeah. No, I completely get where you're coming from, because Microsoft has been so friendly with PCs and everything. It would make a little bit more sense that they would have more of a open relationship with PC making and upgrading. I guess for me, if they were to make the whole thing upgradable, then yeah, the argument of why not just get a PC is really big in the forefront for that. But if they're able to find like a weird middle ground where they're basically like, you can upgrade the graphics card, the internal hard drive, the hard drive, like you could upgrade the hard drive from being a 1 terabyte HDD to a internal 2 terabyte solid state, which would make running speed and all that stuff way quicker, and it would, And if you're able to upgrade like the RAM or things like that, like the big bargaining chips, not necessarily. But then again, it kind of wraps back all circle into, well, why not just get a PC and blah blah blah. So that's kind of like the weird fuzzy area because we're able to upgrade hard drives now. That makes sense, and now we're even reaching for both Sony and Microsoft to the direction of not even upgrading hard drives because now we have the ability to just basically take an external and go click, and then we have the cloud too. So it's like cool, everything's saved in multiple areas, so we don't have to worry about it. Scorpio's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very, very interesting. But we've been talking about the hardware, I think, long enough. And that's exactly what we said off stream, off camera too. We were talking about how Microsoft can't focus that long on the hardware. They can't talk about the specs and all that for like 10, 15 minutes, and that's basically what we talk about for 10, 15 minutes.
Well, let's just hope it's not a repeat at E3. So.
But to be fair, we're doing hypotheses. They actually have to sell this shit. We're just being like, these fuckers better not do this. Before we get into the actual games and before I get into my predictions, what are your impressions of the Game Pass? I know a little bit about it, but I don't know a ton about it. What's your viewpoint and take on Game Pass?
I like the deal of the Game Pass.
Okay.
You know, the subscription to get games of old. Because some of the older games are some of the best games. You know, a lot of bringing back memories of good times.
Yeah. Fucking Jade Empire, man.
Yeah. But my fear is, honestly, like, you know, EA has their own subscription, you know.
Yeah.
EA Access.
Yeah.
Xbox is making this Game Pass coming out. I don't know whether, Netflix, you know, all these subscription-based. So, subscription-based is proven to be, you know, to work, of course.
Yeah.
You know, especially movies and all that, music, all that works.
Yeah, Spotify.
Video games? Yeah. Video games, on the other hand, I'm not sure. Especially if, you know, different, you know, developers are going to keep to themselves and make their own subscriptions, just like EA and all that. But
yeah,
I think it's a good idea at heart. But they just have to make sure they get, you know, constant games in there to make it worth it. I mean,
viable.
To keep people's attention, you know.
Yeah. So for me, that's kind of where I fall with Game Pass. I look at PlayStation Now for a good example. PlayStation Now, I think, great idea. I think it's done meh. I think it's done okay, but not great. And from what I understand, Game Pass so far hasn't done great. But that's also because Microsoft hasn't really advertised it yet. They've just done like a press release and it's available, but it's not really done anything. And PlayStation Now, I feel that. And Grant, we're gonna touch on that. I want to touch on it a little bit during the PlayStation episode. But like you said, subscriptions for music and for TV and for movies and everything, that's been kind of proven because I think the market's been steered that way. But people are still kind of hesitant for games a little bit in terms of the subscription side of things. And I think that's because the model hasn't been quite found yet to like where it works and where it doesn't in terms of pricing and all that. Like I think it's still it's a concept that will work. They just need to iron out the details, I think. Do you think there are gonna be changes, like any big changes for like games for gold and Xbox Live overall, and maybe even the layout for Xbox at like announced at E3? Like we're changing from the Windows layout that we've done to something different, or games for gold is going to change in this regard, or Live overall is going to change in this way. Do you think that any of that's going to happen?
Well, when it comes to interface, I really wish they do change it. For instance, like, what I really want is to shorten up the tabs from the home screen to the store.
Yeah.
Because whenever I do want to go to the store, I get the music page, I get the movie page, and I'm like, I just need to enter a code. So make it a little bit easier, faster. I understand they're trying to get everything inside a box, movies, song, music, and all that. But I think people who just like want to play their games, make it easier, faster, quicker. I think it's overall more appreciated if they do it.
That makes sense.
But when it comes to games and gold, I think they're doing all right.
I agree.
Price wise, I saw a chart that they give out roughly an amount of dollars, almost close, a little bit less, but close to what PlayStation Plus does with their value of their games each month. So I think that's pretty good.
Yes,
overall.
Especially
And
considering
that model
especially considering PlayStation Plus has 3 platforms versus the Xbox having 2.
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, there's an argument to be had that Games for Gold has had a more consistent year. Granted, it's their proving year for Games for Gold. It's kind of like back when the first year of PlayStation Plus, with its lineup of free games, when it first started to kick off, its first year was pretty ridiculous. If I remember right, like Demon Souls and Infamous 1 and 2 and Uncharted was in there, along with a bunch of other great games like the House Marquee, that the guys that make Resogun, they had their games for free on there. Like, it was insane. So I think Games for Gold it's had a really great month. It's had really good buzz. And it's actually, I'm glad it's been doing well because it's been making PlayStation need to do better for its fucking lineup. So before we get into predictions, or at least my predictions, and then we'll talk a little about it. Games and lineup. What do you think, besides kind of the general, because I think the kind of general consensus is they're going to show Crackdown, they're going to show Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, and Cuphead. Do you see them making any new announcements at E3 for games? And I guess
Hopefully
which
we'll
ones?
see, just like we were talking about, a couple remasteries. I'm not sure. They've been kind of tight-lipped in that in that area with their games and all lineup.
Sure.
Both PlayStation and Microsoft this year have been really good and tight-lipped. Of course, we'll know the more famous ones that they did, last year, Crackdown and all that, just like you said. I'm really hoping we get a little bit of remasteries. That'd be awesome. Game-wise, I don't know. Nothing comes to mind. When it comes to E3, I like to be surprised. So
Yeah, which, for disclosure for everyone, don't expect how he had predictions. He's the kind of guy that likes to surprise himself. I'm the guy that likes to think about shit a lot. I'm too analytical for my own good. My theory is that Forza is going to be one of the big games that gets announced officially. Forza Motorsport 7. And that will be... This isn't a prediction, but I'm assuming it'll be there. And it'll be like a launch title thing for Scorpio. And it's going to be like a big marquee thing for them. Fuck it, with that in mind, I'm just gonna get right. I'm just gonna dive balls deep into my predictions. So one of my predictions is that the release date is going to be November 2017. I know a lot of the rumors are saying it's gonna come out in October or whatever. I think it's November. I think it's gonna be early November, and it's gonna have a price point of $500 flat. It's gonna come with a controller. Obviously, it's going to be basically just an updated Xbox One controller, but it'll have some new software and everything in it or something. It'll be like the most up-to-date and current. It might have some like new aesthetic design, like the day one version bundles will have like a different aesthetic from what the actual maybe will be. I don't know. Maybe, oh, there we go. The day one bundles will all have the Scorpion like symbol somewhere on the home console itself and the controller, and then all the next versions from there on won't have it. Just as a hallmark to the Scorpio name. Another prediction I have is they're going to officially announce another Halo spin-off in the form of like ODST. I've talked to you about this. I think it'd be really cool if Halo went into a survival horror aspect where they kind of go in the route of taking what ODST was initially doing and then apply it to a survival situation where you basically have to scavenge for what you've got, and you basically have to just survive by your meat and potatoes, and like you have to acquire gear to like fix your armor and repair your weapons and manufacture ammunition for your guns and things like that, because you're going to be on your own and things like that, and make like homemade explosives and things like that. I do, after thinking about it a lot though, my fear is that they do that route, that the survival horror genre has kind of like almost like open world games. There's like a weird tipping point where it might get too saturated, so I do worry about that. But I do think a Halo spin-off does need to happen, another one, because Halo Wars 2 was awesome. I know we've talked about it, and that game just looks fucking sick. And it sold pretty well for Xbox, so I don't see why they can't mine that a little bit further. Hell, this will be another prediction I'll throw out there because I just thought about it. What's your do you think, because I know they haven't really truly done a prequel Gears of War yet, like they've done Judgment, but I'm talking about like the Pendulum Wars. I'm thinking that a way they could touch on that is doing a Gears of War Halo Wars style kind of RTS game based on the Pendulum Wars / the early emerging the E-Day stuff.
Man, that would be amazing. I love RTSs, and just having the Gears.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it can work.
I don't see why not. I mean, they made Halo work.
Yeah, definitely. Man, that'd be amazing, straight up.
Like, because I mean, if I remember right, the Command and Conquer team had the guys that used to make Command and Conquer. I haven't heard from them in a long time, so it's about time they do something. And it'd be sick for them to do Gears of War. I feel like that's an IP that, just like Halo, has the potential to expand way more than it's already at. Yeah, I think people want to play something fresh like that. I think that's why Halo Wars 2 did so well, because it was really fresh. It was something different, and it was something that was really cool and expansive. And that kind of wraps into another theory I have about Crackdown. I'm wondering if Crackdown 3 is actually just going to be like a full-on reboot of Crackdown, because it's been so long, and it's just going to be something really different from what the previous ones were. I don't know in what regard, but I don't know. I feel like it's going to be kind of a departure from what they previously have done. I don't know if that's a smart move, though, if it is. Because I feel like there's a lot of fun to have in those fucking zany, overpowered kind of, you can jump halfway across the map kind of superhero dudes. I miss playing Crackdown 1. That game was fucking sick. Fucking collecting orbs and shit all the time. I fucking loved that game. The second one sucked, but because the second one literally did nothing new. It was just Crackdown 1 all over again with zombies, and it's like, okay, fine. I think they'll announce 3 new IPs. I don't know what exactly those might be. I do think one of them will be a horror game. I think Microsoft... It's always, in my mind, it's always smart to have one game that's in the horror vein of games. And Microsoft doesn't really have any franchise that's like a horror direction, so it might be a smart move for them to try and mine that a little bit, I think.
They used to have Alan Wake, which was a pretty good game. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
I did too. And then Remedy followed that up with Quantum Break, which was fucking awesome. I liked Quantum Break when I played it with you. The only bad thing about it was it did okay in sales, but it didn't like do incredible, which sucked. And it sucks because we probably won't see whatever project they're working on next for another year, because I know they're working on something with Microsoft. I just don't know what it is. But with that in mind, I think a horror game is a good lock. I think it would be a good idea for them to try and do a new IP, potentially in a platformer, maybe. So like maybe a new IP in the vein of Conquer or something. Try and bring back a rare title, something like that. I think they're going to do 3 new games that are either from old kind of buried titles like Banjo Kazooie and Conquer and Perfect Dark and things like that. I think they're going to bring a lot of those back up because I do think Rare still has potential in a lot of its IPs, and it seems like in the last couple of years, a lot of nostalgia has been taking the industry and it's been working pretty well. Ukulele, while it got kind of meh reception, it was still a pretty good game. I had my issues with it, but it was overall still a fine game. Sonic is coming back and looking great. Crash Bandicoot's coming back. It's looking great. There's a rumor that Spyro is going to come back. I'm sure that would look good. There's a lot of stuff like that. So I feel like Xbox would behoove themselves to at least think about trying to bring stuff back like that. My last prediction I have is Fable gets a full-on reboot, remaster kind of thing. Either it's just going to be a full-blown remaster from the ground up of the original one with the DLC. I think the DLC or the expansion version of the original was the Lost Chapter, I think. Whether it's that or it's just a complete reboot that basically is the first one, but it's a whole new direction. Maybe take some pieces from the second game did. I don't care. I think Fable deserves to come back. And it sucks that Lionhead is closed, but I'm just not sold on the fact that there isn't, that Fable's dead like that. I don't know. That's where I kind of fall with that. Those are my fucking predictions and kind of my harebrained theories beyond so maybe a couple other ones that will not happen. For instance, for whatever reason, I have a feeling that Quake will not come back to Xbox as an exclusive. Because I remember when Quake 4 came out as a launch title for the 360, and I fucking loved that game. And there hasn't really been a Quake solo game for a while, but it won't be an Xbox exclusive. That would be more of an open multi-platform game, I think. And right now, Quake is being a multiplayer only game right now. It's Quake Champions, I think, for PC, and maybe coming to consoles. But yeah, I want Quake to come back.
Yeah.
Do you have any theories or anything like that in that vein?
Threes, not really.
No.
Like we stated earlier, I like to get pumped. It's Christmas for me. I love video games. It's knowing what you're gonna get.
True.
Sometimes it's great, but sometimes takes out the magic away. And
That's true.
This time of year,
Yeah, this is like Christmas
I don't
time.
mind. Still staying in the dark for a little bit.
Yeah. No, I completely get where you're coming from. It's hard for me not to because I look on NeoGAF so much, and it's just become such a culture thing for me to look on NeoGAF and talk on the kind of funny forums that I get spoiled for stuff all the time. But then again, I'm around people all the time that would tell me that shit anyway. So it's like, well, fuck it. Might as well become the most knowledgeable person about this shit. So, any closing statements, my friend?
Not really. Just
Nah?
pretty much get excited for E3. I think it's gonna be interesting.
I agree.
All the way around for Sony, for Microsoft, and even Nintendo. Switch just dropped, and wouldn't mind seeing some, a title that excites us more.
Yeah.
Like Zelda. They need another game that will pretty much drive the boat after Zelda, and
Completely agree.
just wondering what game will be. So,
And we will touch on that in another episode. Actually, the next one that we probably make. But that is the end of the episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Probably whenever I actually start making a decent stream schedule, I'm going to try and have this knucklehead in, and we'll hang out and talk and bullshit like we do, except it'd be live, so we can't edit. And by edit, I don't edit these videos. I don't do shit for these things, man. I just kind of put them together and throw them out.
Wait, you're not editing?
No.
Because if you don't edit, my ass, your idea, your hope of making a nice, good stream, pretty much goes down the tubes, eh?
I mean, that's a whole other argument to get into. But I don't know. I don't mind making not edited videos. But anyway, we will see you guys very soon. Thank you guys for watching.